person who just got a title change is Brad Stevens. He's now the GM, as you mentioned. What has been your impression on the moves that he's made so far for Boston?
I think he's done a really solid job. We saw that the Kemba Walker trade happened very quickly, right after he took over the job. I know some people were critical of that, but I think it makes sense to bring in someone like Al Horford who you're familiar with and can have a big impact on and off the court, especially in the locker room with his leadership and mentoring some other guys and things there. I think he's done a solid job. I think, Boston has a number of young guys that they can develop. We're seeing some of them here in Las Vegas in Summer League that, could step up and take on a bigger role. I think the Schroder deal, again, like we just talked about, I think it's one of the best moves of this offseason. So he deserves credit for that. And again, like I said before, if this had happened on the first day of free agency, imagine the praise we'd be hearing for Brad Stevens. But because it's happening now, whenever everyone just wants to make jokes about Schroder and troll him on Twitter, you're not really hearing a whole lot about it. It's just all about, the negative stuff. So I think he's done a great job. It's very hard to make that transition when you've never really had experience in a front office and you've just been a head coach. It's a whole different set of responsibilities. So the fact that he's already doing a great job is pretty impressive. And he's only going to get better, the more experience he has. So I think it's a great start for him.
Yeah, the big thing about Brad is it's the same way when you're a player. I mean, just figuring out your tempo, your pace, the rhythm that you have to play with in order to be effective. And I thought, he kind of threw us threw us off guard when within it seemed like, damn, seconds after getting the job, Kemba Walker was gone. It was like, damn, you used to like talk just glowingly, effusively about your love.
I really feel, Brad.
And you just like, okay, Kemba, hey, bye-bye. Well, wait, what? And I'm thinking, Brad really that cutthroat? And then you look at the Schroder deal, and you're thinking, there's no way in hell that Brad has any shot of making this happen. But it's okay because it felt very much like so many other players where they've got their top 3 or 4 lists, and the Celtics on their top 3 or 4 lists. But we know damn well that the Celtics are going to always be second runner-up, third runner-up, or they're just not going to cut it. And yet, lo and behold, team after team fell off. Brad was in position to make something happen, and he pulled the trigger right time. And to me, that has been, I think, the most impressive thing about Brad so far is the moves are pretty good, but the timing of the moves is impressive. Like, if he would have really went in hard on Schroder earlier, it got done because Schroder would have been like, look, I made $20 million. I'm the freaking German Rondo, and I'm 28 years old. You can't be coming out with me, please. I'm so much better. Later, wait, how much I offered again? Where the pin at? Where do I sign?
Yeah.
That, and to me, that's just, I as much as and easy as it is to troll, Schroder for basically pissing away $78 million, I would much rather talk about how Brad Stevens low-key just kind of trolled him as his people were putting out how, he should get more, da-da-da-da. And Brad's just like, we'll be right here when you're ready. Just say the word.
Yeah.
We'll be right here. And they got their.
I'm glad you mentioned how cutthroat Brad is too, because I think that's that's something you have to be when you're in that role. And I think that's why we've seen a lot of other head coaches that have taken on like both titles at the same time have really struggled. There's executives around the league that I've talked to that have said that they don't want to get close to their players because they know they're going to have to turn around and trade them, and they have to make those hard business decisions. So if you're super close to your players and you have those strong relationships, sometimes that can kind of cloud your judgment with things. So I think the fact that we've seen, even though he did say, plenty of positive things about Kemba Walker, and I'm sure they had a good relationship, the fact that it didn't really stop him from making that move, and he was pretty cutthroat, I think that shows that, he can make the important decisions and can really thrive in that role. So I think that's impressive. And I think one thing that's good too is I'm glad Boston didn't try to give him both titles. We've seen that really hasn't worked, around the NBA. Because then it's so conflicting. I think when you're, running a front office, you need to have a long-term view of the organization. Whereas when you're a head coach, you're looking at how you win the next game and focus on every game, and you're willing to sacrifice the future to make sure you can win right now. So I think it allows Brad to kind of have that long-term view of things. I think he's also done an incredible job, with the coaching search. I think that is something that he deserves credit for. I was very curious too to see how someone as respected as Brad as a coach now runs a coaching search. We don't really get to see that very often, where a guy who basically, that this kind of thing doesn't happen, where a guy's picking his replacement as a head coach, weeks after the season ended, and he's now in the position where he's hiring the guy. It's so strange. But I think Ime Udoka, he's someone that's so respected, and I think that was just an incredible hire too. So I'm a big fan of what Brad has done so far. I'm curious for you guys, what's the perception around Celtics fans of how Brad's doing and what this front office has done this offseason?
Well, to me, it's a typical Celtics roller coaster ride. When Brad first got the job, it was like, oh, okay, this is okay. But damn it, Danny left him nothing to work with. Danny. And Brad's like, okay. And so then he trades Kemba Walker, gets Al Horford. And that was I thought it was kind of mixed. I thought it was pretty even. And then free agency starts, then the draft comes around and they draft an 18-year-old kid from France. And people are like, it's 45th pick, no big deal. And then free agency starts. And everyone is making moves, and the Celtics aren't. And it's, damn it, Brad, how can you da-da-da-da-da-da? So then they hated him. And then he pulls this little rabbit out and gets, the German for 5.9 pennies on the dollar. And now all of a sudden, we're ready to put a bust up in front of the TD Garden of Brad Stevens because he's just amazingly awesome now. So that's Celtics fandom in a nutshell right there. Here's the thing I will say about Brad, and we can move on from here, but I love the fact that Brad as a head coach never seemed to be flustered or frustrated or moving too slow. Brad as a GM is the same way. He's consistent, and to your point, Alex, his ability to separate the personal connections and feelings that he has for players from I got to get this done is impressive. Because I know of some coaches who were able to have enough success where they were then given the power to be the coach and GM. They struggled with that. They struggled with that to the point where they left the franchises eventually in kind of a pretty crappy place. And Brad, however long he stays in this position, because again, I don't believe that Brad will be here significantly long. I think he's a stopgap measure till they transition into a different era. But he's going in good shape. And I think the way that he's going about doing it is the way that you should do it. Hire a smart coach who has a gritty, grimy work ethic, strong work ethic, who has been around the league long enough.
I'll add that I definitely never thought I'd hear Brad Stevens and Cutthroat in the same sentence. But to Sherrod's point, the fact that he has been able to step into really that bad boy role, because when you look at the franchise, Danny has always been that bad guy, trader Danny. Everyone looked at him as the enemy. But Brad being so beloved by fans and now stepping into that role in a way which still doesn't really seem abrasive, considering that he is making these cutthroat moves. I think Celtics fans, from what I gather, are impressed with what he's done so far. So I am curious to see how long he can stay in their good graces until he makes a move that maybe they wouldn't necessarily like.
No, I was just agreeing with you guys. I think it makes sense. He's someone I trust his his talent evaluation. I think he's someone that I think does a good job of merging analytics and eye tests and things like that. So yeah, I think he's going to do a great job. And he's still so young too. He's someone that I think he's succeeded pretty much everywhere he's been when he kind of puts his mind to something and works on it. So yeah, I think his future is bright in this position.